I actually have a bone to pick with you.
Please.
Just over a year ago, I called you.
I'm so sorry.
You did Jubilee.
The response I got from, civilians was like, I didn't realize it was this bad.
These are young Gen Zers in a studio in LA. That's MAGA right now. What do you say to this common line now? This is the Democrats' Tea Party. And remember, the Republicans' Tea Party didn't work out so well for the Republicans.
When Donald Trump came down the escalator and they're watching and they're laughing at this, and I'm like, this guy's going to win the primary.
Meanwhile, the Hillary Clinton campaign was saying, this is the best guy we could face off against.
There's a very difficult needle that the establishment is trying to thread now.
They went there to try and persuade Tucker to run for president.
I would love it. That would be great.
Split the Republican
It would
vote.
split the Republican vote.
You don't think it would take a lot of lefties with him? Were you Pat Buchanan's Jewish cover?
I think I was his beard, and I had some real misgivings over it. At that time, there was no one who was criticizing Israel.
Are you telling me RFK Jr. is a shameless hypocrite?
I would even add a lot more descriptions to that.
Who do you think that 28 candidate should be?
Who it should be?
I'm Mehdi Hassan.
And I'm Sam Seder.
And we're not kidding. The podcast from today where I get to talk to funny people about serious things, but also, I hope, funny things. Sam Seder's in the house. How are you?
I am mildly funny. And so
you will be today.
I hope
you
so.
will be today.
Yes.
It's great to have you here. We were just talking off camera that you're old.
I am old. It's true.
How old are you going to be soon?
I'm going to be 60 years old.
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much.
You do not look a day over 57.
Oh, well, thank you. I will take that
56.
and I will bank it. Yes.
Mid-50s.
I appreciate that.
I say that's someone in late 40s.
I will. I will tell
I'm not far behind you.
I will tell my children who
not far behind you.
who
We're both
make an
great.
argument as to how old I am.
It is great to have you on the show. I've been on your show many times.
Yes.
I believe this is your first time on our show.
It is, and
I think you're the oldest guest we've ever had on
there
our show.
you go.
as well.
Yeah, we got to wrap
check
this up
that.
quick before things
bedtime.
happen to me.
Before bedtime.
Exactly.
Before early bird special.
No, I'm very happy to be here. I've been very, very impressed with what you've built in such a short period of time. It really is amazing.
And I've said this before, so let's just get the mutual affection out of the way. That, and let me say it on my show, I've said it on your show, you and Majority Report have been inspiration for us because you guys were doing it long before us because you're old. But you've been doing it. You've been doing it for a while, and definitely you opened doors that some of us have followed through in the independent progressive media space. So as I say, very exciting to have you on the show. I don't know why we didn't have you on before. Have you just come from Majority Report?
I have, yeah.
Nice commitment.
We
You're not
do
tired?
it. I am exhausted.
You do about 3 hours live?
Yeah, we do. Today I did a little bit short. We did about 2.5. The show started out when I launched this iteration. You know, the show originally came from Air America, which was radio, and we would do 3 hours. The podcast started out, I think, when I started it in 2010, it was 45 minutes for the free show, and then 45 minutes for what we now call the fun half. It rarely is fun, based upon the news these days. And there was mission creep, and now it's like 2.5 hours. And then usually my producers are like, dude, we got to go. Just like literally they want to leave.
Not to make you feel any older, but we found a clip of your first publicly available video that we could find on Majority Report's YouTube page.
Oh, geez.
Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Sam Seder, and I left my computer's power cord at home. This week's bullshit emanates from the mouths of Republican lawmakers and conservative shills from across the country. Namely, they're trying to scare you into thinking that America is turning into Greece, the country, not the musical. You know, with Travolta and the greasy hair and the cars, and not that one. And they're trying to scare you so they can pursue their anti-government conservative agenda. Come on.
That was my That's Bullshit series, actually, I think, which...
Can I be blunt?
Yeah, I looked young.
I mean, you looked young, but that looked a little bullshitty. Why is the camera shaking? It's 2010. It's not 1937.
I was holding the camera.
Couldn't afford a producer, cameraman.
No, that was
just you.
just me doing
Not a
That's Bullshit. I think I put out like 10 of those. That was like the interregnum between my Air America stint and launching the podcast.
I wonder, are you nostalgic for that time? Because put aside the fact that you look much younger, and put aside the fact that that was really badly shot. The content is entertaining because you say stuff like, Greece and debt. I'm like, what? Oh, he's talking about Tea Party. And it just feels like a much more innocent time.
I mean,
where the debates in this country are about like budget levels.
Yeah, well, there was still that sort of pretense, I guess.
Yes,
I mean,
there was still the racism about Barack Hussein Obama. But, they pretended to care about things like constitutional principles and budget deficits.
But it was clear they didn't care at that time. It just,
Agreed.
The big difference at that time was that the mainstream media was fully on board with it. And not just, you had people, I remember like sort of famously like Ezra Klein and some of those who were talking about Paul Ryan being an intellectual, and it was all a pretense.
The Young Guns book. Do you remember that with Paul Ryan and Kevin McCarthy and Cantor?
Cantor,
who lost the Tea Party.
Exactly.
And they were seen as intellectual. They all bowed the knee to Trump
100%.
at one point or another.
100%.
McCarthy, of course, even after accusing him of insurrection. I take your point, but it just feels like such a more innocent time compared to where we are today in 2026 with this second-term Trump. And not just a second-term Trump. I do want to talk to you about just the people we have to deal with now, you and I, as progressives. I actually have a bone to pick with you.
Please pick away.
Well, it's not really a bone. It's just a complaint.
Oh, I hear
a friendly
very
complaint.
often, yes.
A few months ago, or just over a year ago, I called you.
I'm so sorry.
I said,
so
Sam,
sorry.
I said, Sam,
I know what
you did Jubilee, and it was really entertaining, and you did a good job, and you did, and it went viral. I was like, they want me to do Jubilee, and I thought I would call you because you're the only person I know who's done Jubilee, as a progressive in particular. And you said, you should do it. It'll be great. And they're not all crazy.
It was great.
It was great for viewers.
Yeah.
For me, it was a very painful experience. My Jubilee experience, I've discussed this many times about the pros and cons. We could talk about it now because it's like we're in a small club.
Yeah.
I don't want to make the Jubilee people feel too special about themselves, but there's not that many people who've done this shit. I've never done anything crazier than that in my journalistic career. Have you?
No, that was pretty nuts. I mean, I remember covering for when I was the last Air America show I did was Break Room Live with Mark Maron, and I went down not far from our studio to interview people who were protesting Letterman, Tea Party people who were protesting Letterman. And that got pretty crazy. They were convinced that I was using Saul Alinsky techniques on them by asking them, like, what are you doing out here? That's exactly what Saul Alinsky would ask. And that seemed pretty crazy. But this was the most sort of concentrated level of craziness that
because people don't realize, again, you and I know this, you go to this weird warehouse in East LA. It's boiling hot. I don't know if it happened with you. It was like they had fans on. You walk in pretty much straight away. There's no like pleasantries, makeup. It's not like normal TV stuff. And then you're surrounded by these 20 nut jobs. And it's straight. It's like go.
Yes.
And it's 2.5 hours with one toilet break.
Yes. It was pretty intense. I mean, I do remember like going into the warehouse thinking like, there's a greater than 0% chance that I'm just going to get mugged here.
I took security.
Like this isn't like a real... It's
security.
A very odd looking place.
Yes.
And you walk in through like...
It's really weird.
It's a sort of a ramshackle
Even to get to it, you're driving this neighborhood, you're like, where am I?
No.
Your small little parking lot, and then you got like 20 white supremacists waiting for you in a circle.
It was a very odd experience.
Let's play it. Let's play some of it. Let's remind you of the moment, your moment that went viral. Well, many did, but this was the most viral.
We're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. They don't. Government agencies.
They don't.
No,
yes, they do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
every private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies operate are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think the whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that.
That face of yours, of course, became an immediate meme. That guy, first of all, if you watch enough Jubilees, you recognize
you
the
see him
folks.
all the time.
I think he was in mine too.
Yeah.
But he didn't speak in mine. He sat. I don't think he ever came forward. And they changed their hairstyles a bit. It's like there, it's tied up. Then I don't know if that's on purpose, but you do recognize some of these people. In fact, I got the white supremacist lady who you got.
Who has since had I don't know if you followed her career.
No, I try not to.
You know, she was like a trad wife type of person. And she is no longer, I mean, she had like a little bit of a bump after our Jubilee thing, and then had to eliminate all of her social media because she had an affair with another conservative figure. I can't remember his name. And so she's no longer on the scene.
She was the one who came along when we talked about Israel in my show and was like, well, it's one religious group that's controlling everything. I was like, this is not the kind of opposition to Israel that I'm in favor of. But it's so funny to see that guy who's familiar say that stuff. And then you have to respond. And I watched that and I thought, all right, there's a couple of crazies with Sam.
Yeah.
As you pointed out, when I then turn up, there's all crazies. There's
all crazies, and they sort of like they took an element of the crazy, I think, that showed up on mine and decided like, hey, what happens if we were to ramp this up and make 20 of these people? And that's what it seemed like you did.
Well, it got very dark very quick. I think we can play a clip from mine that was people remember. Are you a fan of the Nazis?
I frankly don't care being called a Nazi at all.
I didn't say that. I didn't actually say that. I said, are you a fan of the Nazis?
Well, they persecuted the church a little bit. I'm not a fan of that. But
what about the persecution of the Jews?
Well, I mean, I certainly don't support anyone's human dignity being assaulted. I'm a Catholic.
But you don't condemn Nazi persecution of the Jews?
I think that there was a little bit of persecution and stuff like that, which is bad.
We may have to rename this show because you're a little bit more than a far-right Republican.
Hey, what can I say?
I think you could say I'm a fascist.
Yeah, I am.
So that moment for me, that's very early on. That's about in the first half hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm like, what am I doing here? Did you ever feel like walking out during yours?
There was a couple of moments when that woman who said, like, what's wrong with xenophobia, and the other theocrat, where I was like, wow, this is sort of outside the scope of what we were talking about. But I don't know. I think the value of that was to show people. I mean, you engage in a lot of debates, and a lot of time you realize, like, this isn't necessarily about changing this person's mind. This is about
showing a third party,
illustrating, what's going on to the audience. And this was early in the Trump administration. Like, I think I recorded mine literally a week or so after the inauguration, and I think there was a real misunderstanding of like what we were dealing with. And I think to a certain extent, the response I got from, civilians was like, I didn't realize it was this bad.
Yes.
And so I think there's value in that. It's a little bit painful because you're having to absorb stuff. Like,
friends of mine keep saying, "Oh no, it was amazing. What are you complaining about?" I was like, "Amazing for you. I was wanting to sit there and have people tell me to get out of my country and all that shit, especially as a brown immigrant." What's interesting, what you say about the value of showing people. I agree. That is when people ask me, "Would you do it again?" And I don't know the answer to that question, but or do you regret doing it? But certainly the value of it was that. Which is, people think of racist or MAGA people in this country as like old white men in Alabama.
Right.
And these are young Gen Zers in a studio in LA.
Yep.
Right. Many of them are local. And you're like, that's MAGA right now. There is a lot of young MAGA people, very energized online, very committed to, in fact, more committed to the quote unquote MAGA platform than Donald Trump is, who doesn't actually believe anything. And that I thought was worth exposing on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And to me, it's like, look, this is the Republican Party.
But these guys think the Republican Party is too moderate.
Yeah, but I think the Republican Party plays to them.
Yes.
I mean, and so, whether there are elected Republicans or there are Republicans who don't, subscribe to this stuff, what's animating their movement is what you exposed on that Jubilee. And I think it's really important for people to understand the stakes and really, how we got here.
I'm so excited to tell you about our sponsor, Avocado Green Mattress. They're certified organic mattresses sleep cool, relieve pressure, and support your body so you can enjoy deep, restorative sleep. They don't use polyurethane foams. Instead, every mattress uses healthy, natural materials. They're even handmade. But don't take my word for it. Try it out for yourself. You can actually walk into an avocado showroom or find their mattresses at a retailer near you. And once you lie down on one, you just know. As someone who spent my journalism career working odd, late hours, I need my mattress to help me fall asleep. Avocado mattresses are designed to provide both comfort and proper support, helping your body stay aligned while still feeling cozy. Choosing avocado is one of the most sustainable choices you can make, made with natural, certified organic materials that are responsibly sourced and built to last, which means less waste over time. Avocado products are made, not manufactured, and thoughtfully crafted with real materials to deliver lasting comfort and support. You can experience them in person at an avocado showroom or a premier retailer near you, or shop online at avocadogreenmattress.com/Mehdi to check out their mattress and get a sale. That's avocadogreenmattress.com/Mehdi, M-E-H-D-I. avocadogreenmattress.com/Mehdi. Check it out.
I mean, like you point to that 2010 video where, we were still talking about budget deficit, but I also did another one where they were protesting the Ground Zero, mosque.
Which wasn't a mosque at
at
Ground
all.
Zero, yeah.
And it wasn't at Ground Zero. I actually sort of went down from my apartment to show it, but this was there then. And in fact, in like 2006, my producer from the Majority Report on Air America and I wrote a book called FUBAR, which you could probably get on eBay for 83 cents. You might be overpaying a little bit at this point, but the whole thing was about, this is not your father's Republican Party. Like, there is a change afoot that I think we were more sensitive to because, we listened to AM talk radio.
Yes.
And it was out there and it was clear where the base of the party was going. And Trump was the sort of like consummation of where they were taking this party.
Also, it wasn't organic on Trump's part. I mean, people forget this. I can't remember where I read it at the time, but back in 2016, when people were analyzing how Trump destroyed these mainstream rivals, 16, 17 of them, because he had his finger on the pulse of the base in a way they didn't.
100%.
And he had it, not directly, because Trump doesn't do any homework or any kind of prep and doesn't like to talk to the plebs, but he sent Dan Scavino and all these guys on his team to go listen to AM radio, to go hear what Joe Arpaio was saying in Arizona. And they realized the border, immigration, the wall, that is what gets you out in front of all these people. And Trump, until then, had never been anti-immigrant in that sense. He was always a racist, but he employs migrants to this day at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
He was a pro-choice Democratic donor, et cetera, et cetera. But he understood, as you say, that is where the base was, in a way that Jeb Bush and Carly Fiorina, whatever it was, who were the people running, didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, there were two things. I mean, one, people forget that Mitt Romney in the 2012 election came to New York and made a big show of kissing Donald Trump's ring at that time. And the other thing was, like, people also forget that George Bush was sold as the CEO president. And you had Paul Ryan at the time talking, these made up stories about kids don't want kids don't want a free lunch. They want a brown bag lunch. And there was this whole idea in the Republican Party that if you were poor, you were morally unrighteous. Yes. And the opposite is, if you're rich, you're morally righteous. And so, I remember when Donald Trump came down the escalator, that night I was on Chris Hayes' program, and I think we did a Mystery Science 3000 type of thing with him coming down the escalator, and we stood in front of it. And I remember being in the green room, and I can't remember who was there, or maybe it was in makeup, and maybe it was with Eamon and maybe Katie Tur. I can't remember. And they're watching and they're laughing at this, and I'm like, this guy's going to win the primary. Like, I didn't think he would win the general, but I was like, he's going to win the primary because the whole Republican Party has been, if you have money, you are morally righteous, and he's going to sit on that stage.
Wow.
And whenever he says anything, because he's a billionaire, or supposedly, he certainly is now, whatever he says
so you
is
called
going
it
to
early.
trump. Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember sitting across from Chris going like, this is serious.
Chris Hayes, star of Amazon's The Boys.
Exactly.
Exactly. You and Keith Ellison, if I remember correctly. Keith Ellison went on ABC, George Stephanopoulos, and said Trump would win, and they all laughed at him.
They
on
all
the panel.
laughed at him. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Hillary Clinton campaign was saying, this is the best guy we could face off against. We hope it's him.
Hillary Clinton was uniquely ill-suited to run against Donald Trump.
Should have done great against Romney.
Should
have gone great against Romney.
Or Jeb Bush or any of those. But she was running on her CV, which, you know, on paper, I mean, I had some political disagreements with her. But in terms of qualifications, there may have not been
a more
a single person
that was a line at the time.
She was
the most qualified person.
But the problem is like Donald Trump was uniquely situated to attack someone's CV. And, you know, I think the Democratic Party in many respects still has not learned the lesson from that, which is that like, these elections are change elections. And if you go around and project that like we're the establishment, so much so that I'm traveling around with a Republican, even
as
the
Kamala Harris did in 2024.
Exactly.
And of course, Hillary ran on, what was it? Trump ran on Make America Great. America's already great.
Yes. And I would even argue like the whole MAGA thing. You know, at one point, Biden, it wasn't just MAGA, it was extreme MAGA.
Oh, yeah.
All you're basically saying to people is, this guy's not the establishment.
Yeah.
And we are.
Yes.
And when people want change,
Yes.
they're going to go with the outsider that you're saying he's the outsider.
The beauty of doing a show with someone like yourself is you've just hosted us, anchored us into what I wanted to talk about next, which is a perfect segue. You mentioned the Democratic Party and lessons to be learned. We're speaking not long after multiple primary wins by leftists, Abdul al-Sayed being the biggest primary win of 2026 by a country mile, winning a Senate primary. Narrowly, yes, but some would argue doesn't matter how narrow it was. He took out $60 million of spending, the endorsements of the entire party establishment. He wins. Chris Robb wins in Pennsylvania. Malak Kuros wins in Colorado. Claire Valdez and Brad Lander.
At 7 DSA members are going to be congresspeople this year.
According to my colleague Prem Tech, I think it's 9 total self-professed socialists, because Brad Lander is no longer DSA, but he does identify as a Democratic Socialist.
Correct.
So you've got about 9 socialists will be in the House in January by Prem's count. So that's just an interesting phenomenon, but also the lessons learned from Democrats about change, populism, anti-establishment messaging. I think that's really important. But what do you say, given we've talked about the Tea Party in 2010, as both of us are old enough to remember that period, what do you say to this common line now, which is, this is the Democratic Party's Tea Party moment. What's happening now? This is the Democrats' Tea Party. And remember, the Republicans' Tea Party didn't work out so well for the Republicans. What do you say to that line of argument?
I would say, like, what do you mean it didn't work out?
Well, Sarah Palin was a disaster. They lost control of the legislature when they should have won, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I would argue that they
long term they won.
Long term they won. I mean, I remember America. I remember reading a piece in the Atlantic, of all places, saying like, people have to be careful of Air America because we don't want a situation like, the Rush Limbaugh has been very bad for the Republican Party. The guy ended up getting a medal from a president who ends up being a 2-term president. Yes. It is only analogous in the sense that there is an insurgency and the establishment of the Democratic Party is completely out of touch with the voters.
Which the Republican establishment was, as we discussed, with its voters.
And I think that's really the end of the analogy. I mean, it's a very sort of like a lazy way of making an assessment.
It gives me an ulcer.
But I mean,
the whole both sidesism when it comes to this. You're right. The analogy is it's an insurgency. It's calling out, but then it actually does matter what you're insurgent about.
Well, of course. I mean, that's
issues like people get annoyed when I say this, and you've said it, I'm sure, a version, which is, yes, there's a far right, and yes, there's a far left. The far right wants Nazism and ethnic cleansing. The far left wants Medicare for all. That is not the same thing.
And I would also argue that even in the context of like the far right in this country is pretty much a genuine far right. Yeah. Like, I mean, internationally speaking, you start to bump up against fascism.
Yep.
As we saw,
very quickly. 20 minutes in.
I got no problem with that. But the far left in this country is not communist. The far left.
It's fucking Scandinavian social democrats.
It's the Democrats in 1930.
That's true. It's FDR Democrats.
100%.
And at best, international comparisons, It's Danish centrist.
And so even in the context of that analysis,
good point.
what you're seeing is really a return to the roots of the Democratic Party, of the modern Democratic Party, which was the New Deal. If Mamdani was to come out and actually propose things that FDR did,
yes.
there would be people on network television who would
I
light
wish Joe
themselves on
Biden
fire.
had pitched court packing.
Yeah, yes.
I wish he had done that.
Yes.
By the way, we could argue, using your point, that both parties are basically returning to older versions of the Democratic Party.
Yes.
The Democratic Party under Mamdani and Abdul and Bernie are trying to go back to FDR Democrats, and the Republican Party are trying to go back to Jim Crow Democrats.
Yeah, they're trying to go back to like 1890s and, pogroms in South Carolina against black politicians. So I think, as a very surface level, you can make that argument. But what is really clear, I mean, if I was someone who was a conservative Democrat, I would be very angry at Kristen Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer because they keep failing
Yes.
in a way that is pretty stunning. That $60 million will not help you with the deficit you created by picking certain candidates.
Liz Smith, who is pretty centrist,
Yes.
I think it's fair to say, worked for Mallory McMorrow in this race, worked for Pete Buttigieg, etc. I saw her on MSNBC, or MS Now as it's known, saying that the genius is, sarcastically, the genius is at AIPAC and the DSCC or whatever it's called, the Senate Campaign Committee, Kirsten Gillibrand, they fucked this up.
Yep.
They messed this up.
Without a doubt.
And actually, McMorrow would have been a stronger candidate against El Sayed any day of the week than Haley Stevens.
I agree with you. And the interesting thing about McMorrow, I think like the story that hasn't been really told too much is, why did she fail? Like there was a moment where people understood in that wing of the party that Haley Stevens is not quite up to this.
Yes. People keep thinking that like I'm a critic of Israel, so I'm hating on Haley Stevens because of her Israel. Her Israel views are batshit. Like she dreams about Israel. She won't vote for any kind of restrictions on aid when even people like Nancy Pelosi are voting on restrictions to aid. But separate to that, even if she was pro-Palestine, I promise you I would also be critical because she's just not a good politician.
No, she's not.
And Mallory McMorrow is.
Yes.
Whatever my disagreements. I mean, I was one of the first people to interview her when she first went viral with that speech in the State House calling out the Republicans.
Yep.
I was at MSNBC and Peacock at the time, and I was very impressed with her political skills and charisma and communication skills. I think she fucked up by going after Hassan Piker, whoever gave her the advice to make
what I think
Hassan Piker the Nick Fuentes of the Democratic Party immediately. If you look at the polls, I know correlation is not causation, but look at the timeline. That's when she starts dropping in the polls.
100%. And, what's the subtext? What was she trying to communicate there? I mean, like Hassan Piker was not an issue in—
She made him an issue.
Well, but why? Right?
And it backfired.
It was like trying to like create some type of Islamophobia, trying to raise the issue of we need to defend Israel.
Yes.
And what's interesting to me is that like there's a very difficult sort of needle that the establishment is trying to thread now. And you cannot— she's bringing up Hassan Piker for the sake of donors.
Yeah.
There's nobody else who knows who they are. And so you cannot satisfy those donors and also seem normal,
Yes.
for lack of a better term, to the majority of the electorate.
My favorite story out of the whole of Michigan, perhaps my favorite story in the reporting that's come out, you talked about she's trying to satisfy these donors. And these people will never be satisfied because, of course, Kirsten Gillibrand, a woman who called Zohran Mamdani an advocate of global jihad,
Right.
has still never publicly apologized to him or to the Muslim community. I believe she privately apologized. She apparently accused McMorrow of being in the DSA. So, like, no matter how much you moderate, if you're slightly to the left of Genghis Khan, the Democrat establishment will say you're a socialist communist. Forget Fox.
Yeah.
Forget the right. Schumer and Gillibrand will do it for you.
It is fascinating to me to watch this, like, sort of this talking point ossify. I mean, I don't know if you remember when they used to say, where the Republicans used to say, Barack Obama's got Chicago-style politics. And I just remember at the time thinking, like, there's no one alive who knows what you're talking about. Like the Chicago-style politics, you're talking about something that was like 70 years ago.
Yeah.
And its resonance is gone. They used to say San Francisco Nancy Pelosi because they were trying to say like she's got gay values or something.
Yeah.
And that became sort of anachronistic in many respects. And I think we are on the cusp of those talking points becoming similarly. They're already losing their effectiveness, but I think we're a cycle or two away from like people just being like, you're a lunatic to talk about that.
Not just you're a lunatic, but you're actually emboldening the socialists, right? So they have so devalued the S word by throwing it at Obama, Pelosi. Joe Biden was a communist. Kamala Harris is a Marxist. These people are center-right. And under any European political system, these are center-right capitalist politicians. And the idea that in America they're socialist, Marxist / communist, you're now seeing Trump escalate the communist phrase. Part of that is Stephen Miller trying to use anti-terror playbook to go after people. There's a dangerous element to it, but there's also a moronic comedic part of it, which is you've had to escalate the rhetoric because socialist doesn't have the same impact anymore. So now you have to say Abdul El-Sayed is a communist when there's literally nothing communist about him, let alone socialist. He doesn't identify as a socialist. The idea that you would have universal health care and that's communism, all that does is that means people think, well, communism is pretty good. If that's what communism is, that's good. So what you're doing is you're actually...
There's a reformation of the word, but I would also argue it's because... I grew up in the Cold War, and
you're old,
and I am old, and increasingly the electorate did not, and so the resonance of that word is losing its sort of valiance in our political discourse.
Liking this video? Then don't just watch. Hit like, share, and subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism. Do you agree with me? I assume you do, but I'm going to ask anyways. Like, as someone who's covered this stuff for a long time, and we just saw you in 2010 talking about the Tea Party, but the moment we're in 2026, just as you do Majority Report every day, I'm doing multiple things for Zeteo every day. How hard is it to cover this news cycle, this politics? It just feels insane.
It's
I can't say
relentless.
Not just relentless, but like every day I'm like, that can't be true. That can't be real. Did Donald Trump really say that? Did this story about this corruption really happen? Like, and I've used this line many a time over the last, 10 years since he emerged on the scene, which is, if you put this stuff in front of a Netflix writer's room, they would say, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, right.
If a House of Cards writer, whatever it is, they would say, this is insane. Like, we're not putting this in our TV show. That is too on the nose. That is too ridiculous. That plot twist would never happen. And it happens.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I'm in crazy land.
We are through the looking glass in many respects. The pace of things.
Do you think that goes if/when Trump goes? Or is that's American politics now?
I mean, I think we're going to go through a period. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I think it's going to continue to be insane. I mean, I think this is hopefully a uniquely crazy time, and what I find really challenging about it is like, what part do we cover? Like, the corruption is probably as excessive as it's been in the history of the country.
Never seen anything like
that. But to me, the real story that's going to resonate, because, when Trump is gone, his corruption is gone. There's vestiges of it, but the real problem is what the sort of, the Republican, the diehard Republican and conservative movement people have done, like Russ Vought, destruction of the IRS, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CDC, the FTC, the FDA. These agencies have been so decimated that it's like, we're not going to feel it, for years to come. And for the vast majority of people are not going to be able to put together the idea of like, hey, how come it's 6 months later and I haven't got my IRS refund? Or how come if I eat lettuce, I get explosive diarrhea
or die?
Why are we worried about measles at my kid's school right now? And on and on and on. Like, why do we have a greater concentration of wealth? I mean, all of these things are going to be a function of the destruction of these agencies. And regardless of who becomes president in 2028, there's only so many resources you have to rebuild these things. Some of these agencies have existed for for 100 years,
Yes.
decades, and it takes a long
Oh, it's
time
much
to build
easier
up.
to destroy than build.
Of course.
And they know that. And Russ
Yeah.
Vogt knows that. You mentioned 28 a couple of times, 2028. Joe Kent and Marjorie Taylor Greene were seen in a picture with Tucker Carlson in his home recently in Maine, all sitting around the table.
Yes, it was very woody.
It was very wood. He loves his wood. There's a lot of wood in Tucker Carlson's house. If you watch his show, as I do, for my sins. Joe Kent, former national counterterrorism director for Donald Trump, quit over Iran, blamed Israel. He has been accused of all sorts of white supremacist neo-Nazi ties when he was running for Congress. He went on Cenk Uyghur's podcast on the Young Turks, and he talked about how they went there to try and persuade Tucker to run for president as the leader of a new third party. What do you make of that?
Well, one, I would love it. That would be great.
Split the Republican
It would
vote.
split the Republican vote.
You don't think it would take a lot of lefties with him? Because me and Shadi Hamid from the Washington Post, we got attacked a few months back when we said that we had gone to visit family and friends, and we noticed that in the Muslim community, at least, a lot of Muslims are like, I'll vote for Tucker Carlson because he's speaking out against foreign wars.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the absence of a Democrat who is speaking out against foreign wars, water flows downhill, and there's a lot of people who don't want that. I mean, I hope that it's hard for me to imagine we're going to have a Democratic presidential nominee who's going to be able to get through that process, the primary process.
Being as pro-Israel as predecessors. I mean, this is Hassan Piker's argument recently that the 28 nominee won't be
It's
super pro-Israel.
It's inconceivable in my mind.
So that might neutralize some of the Tucker attraction.
Yes.
Do you think the main threat is to the right?
I think the main threat is to the right. And I would say that I think it's also bullshit.
I don't think he's going to do it.
No.
I think he's going to endorse J.D. Vance.
Yes.
He's
and
made it very clear he loves J.D. Vance.
Yes. And I think also, like the idea of a third party run creates some type of credibility that you can then impart to a J.D. Vance.
The man called RFK Jr., who may have done exactly that.
Yes.
Third party until he's suddenly Trump, suddenly MAGA.
Yes.
And then he's imparting all that. Oh, look at me. I'm bringing my independent folks with me. It's shepherding people towards MAGA, which is what Tucker Carlson may do with J.D. Vance.
Without a doubt. And I think also it's a way of getting leverage, right? I mean, RFK ran. I don't think he thought he could win. I think it was a way of negotiating some type of leverage so he could get into that situation.
I think he ran thinking he would negotiate with the Democratic nominee and ended up
he said
with
himself,
the Republican.
I mean, the
He
irony.
called Trump a Nazi and Hitler, which is ironic.
Yes. In fact, I think I was on the radio with him when he did that back in the day. But he ran at the beginning when he ran against Biden. People forget that he was running in the Democratic nomination. He was talking a lot about how we have a revolving door and that government is full of people who are transactional. And then he basically admits, I offered, Harris my support if she would give me what I wanted, and she didn't.
You're telling me RFK Jr. is a shameless hypocrite? I'm stunned.
I would even add a lot more descriptions to that, but on top of it.
Bigoted, etc. We can go down the line. Just coming back to these right-wingers who are claiming to be anti-MAGA or anti-Trump, pure MAGA, whatever you want to call it. It's a discussion we've had on this show many times. I talked about it with Crystal Ball. I talked about it with Bassem Youssef. Bassem went on Candace Owens' show, and I said, why'd you do that? And Bassem's argument is, if the house is on fire, you take a bucket from whoever's nearby. And his argument is, and I hear this from a lot of people on the left, in the Muslim community, which is, put all these other things aside. Yes, we can disagree with these people on multiple issues, immigration, the economy, taxes, blah-de-blah. But it's a genocide, and Tucker Carlson's saying the right thing on the genocide. Candace Owens is saying, and this is not me saying it, but other people saying, she's standing up against Israel. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been very strong on arms. So that's why we should work with these people. Do you buy that argument?
No. If I go on Tucker Carlson's show, I mean,
a bunch of people have who are quite unquote on our side of the argument. Trita Parsi was on recently talking about Iran.
Right.
A good friend of mine.
Right.
Cenk Uyghur's been on. Anna Kasparian's been on.
Right.
I'm trying to think of other people, but there's been certain people who've gone on.
Am I happy that Tucker Carlson is advocating that we should not be supporting Israel to his people? Yes. That's good. If I had a button to stop him from talking, that I wouldn't press that button. But what value am I bringing to that cause by going on his show? None, as far as I can tell. All I'm doing is bringing him some value. And, if I was to go on the show...
People would say, just to be devil's advocate, people would say the value you're bringing is you're showing there's a coalition of Americans on right and left who are against these endless wars.
Yeah. And what is the, to whom am I showing that?
The establishment.
Well, the establishment can see that I disagree with the war, and they can see that, and they can do the addition if they want to do the addition. That's not a very hard math problem. When I go on that show, what I am saying, unless I am arguing with him the entire time, which is what I would do, is I am saying there's something for you. My audience, I'm saying this to my audience, there's something for you to hear, to take a look at and encourage. Like, I am happy that he's doing that. But this is not like we're both going to sponsor legislation that's going to go through. Like, what is the material thing that I'm achieving there?
I mean, you're both podcasters with the greatest respect. It's like you're not, as you say, you're not lawmakers trying to do Feingold, whatever it is.
Right.
We came.
And if we were, organizing a protest, I could say, like, okay, I could maybe see, like, from a logistical standpoint, but we're podcasters and we have an audience. And when you go on to a show, you're offering some imprimatur to the extent that you
Unless you're going on to debate with them, which is not what people want.
Right.
So people tell me as well, they said, if Tucker Carlson ever invited your show, I'm sure he wouldn't. I'm sure he's not a fan of mine, and I'm not a fan of his. You should go on his show. That's true. We would agree in the Gaza section, but there'd be multiple other things I would have to challenge him on.
Yeah.
Which is why he'll probably never invite me on the show.
It's a different media environment. Like back in the day when MSNBC was right wing, I'm talking like 2004. I'm old. Tucker had a show on that program.
He did.
And he would have Buchanan fill in for him. And Buchanan would invite me on when he wanted to criticize Israel. And I was like...
And did you go on?
And I went on.
So isn't that a contradiction?
Well, I think it was a different media environment. And I don't think I had... It's a different medium, first of all, radio to TV. And
you Pat Buchanan's Jewish cover.
I think I was his beard, and I had some real misgivings over it. But, at that time, there was no one in the mass media who was criticizing Israel.
Yeah, now it's a very different ballgame.
Now it's a very different environment.
What frustrates the hell out of me when I speak to kind of normie crowds, and people say, oh, Tucker and Candace and my MTG, everywhere I go, especially Muslim guys, I've said this before on the record, like there's no live Q&A I do where somebody in the audience doesn't say, Mehdi, what do you think about Tucker, MTG, Candace? I'm like, oh, here's that question. What frustrates me is, and this is why the left is so bad at messaging and so bad at, banging its own drum, is like, they have come around to our way of looking at the world, not the other way around. We were here first. We were against a genocide from day one.
Yeah.
We were the ones calling out Israel before October the 7th. You guys are Johnny come lately. It's like Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying, I stand with Israel in the weeks after October 7th. She was putting in resolutions condemning Rashida Tlaib as a Hamas terrorist, right?
Well, she also could have stayed in Congress and actually had a material impact on these
she criticizes
exactly.
AOC for not taking. So I'm glad, like you, I'm glad they're saying what they're saying. I wouldn't press the stop button either. I love it when MTG is calling out Trump. I love it when Tucker Carlson is calling out Mike Huckabee and Ted Cruz. But make no mistake, you have come around to our way of thinking and not the other way around.
And I'm not going to whitewash. First off, I would also argue that the impetus listen, I remember when Tucker Carlson called Iraqis a bunch of monkeys.
Yes. And he said immigrants make America dirty.
Yes. I mean, I think if you watch a lot of Tucker Carlson, you see this stuff much more than gets presented.
Even now.
Yes.
Even now. When he's interviewing Huckabee or someone, he's smuggling in great replacement stuff, and there's a lot of brown people in the UK and all of that stuff.
100%. And the impetus for his anti-Israel perspective is not about Palestinian liberation. I would also argue that there's whiffs, if not things more explicit, about Jews involved in that as well.
Certainly Candace Owens.
Certainly Candace Owens. I remember being at the RNC, I think it was, in 2004. No, it was the DNC in 2004. Air America, nobody knew what it was. We're on Radio Row. I'm talking to a guy, And he sort of vaguely knew that we were liberal. And he goes, yeah, I'm not with these neocons. I'm a Buchananite. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And he goes, yeah, this neocons, it's really just a bunch of Jews.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like, am I the first Jew you've met? Like,
You were like, I'm a Buchananite. No, okay.
yeah, I mean,
but no, you're right. I mean, and it's
there's
much
that
worse today.
strain
But it's
there.
much worse today. In those days, it was fringe. Buchanan was fringe. Whatever you think about the Republican Party back then, they kept him fringe.
But let's be clear
Today,
what
they
America
are-
First is. It is Buchanan was very prominent in that tradition.
But when he was prominent in that tradition, he was fringe within the Republican Party. Today, it is the Republican Party's mainstream, right? Donald Trump hosted Nick Fuentes for dinner at his house.
Yes.
No previous Republican president would ever dare to have done that. Not George
Buchanan
W. Bush.
was a speechwriter for Nixon.
Indeed. And Nixon is probably the other person who was anti-Semitic very clearly if you listen to the tapes.
yep.
But in public, I don't think would have hosted a Holocaust denier at his home for dinner. So my point is, it's been mainstream today. And if you get into the young people, the Groyper stuff, you did see a story recently, I think it was Axios, Politico, one of these DC political outlets did a story about how Republican Congress members can no longer hire any good staffers out of college.
Right.
Because they're all dumbasses,
Groypers, yeah.
Groypers, or Trump loyalists. They have no actual expertise in anything. And people have talked about how many Groypers are already on the Hill, how many people follow Fuentes. You're seeing all these stories about the New York Young Republicans Club. There's not a week goes by where some student or college or TPUSA or Young Republicans Club is not exposed with like a text group talking about Jewish people, black people, Muslims, and white supremacist ways. And my worry is like, we're not, the media's certainly not talking about it. You and I did Jubilee. I did 5 arguments on Jubilee, or 4. Yeah, 4 arguments. My 4th one was Donald Trump is ethnically cleansing Gaza. None of them wanted to get up and argue with me. They all hated Donald Trump's position on that. They're all anti-Israel. But they're not pro-Palestine, as you say.
Right.
They're anti-Israel. One of them, the one who was on both of our shows, she was very clear that it's all about one particular religious group controlling the president.
Right.
And people said some stuff after that show, which I can't repeat, some horrifically anti-Semitic stuff off camera as we were leaving that warehouse. And I remember thinking to myself, Jonathan Greenblatt, if only you could be here with me today. You spend all your time in the ADL monitoring some Palestinian students' placard on campus. Meanwhile, there's an entire generation of white Christian Americans who are going to be in positions of power very soon who want to basically do old school, Nazi-esque anti-Semitism.
I think it was there, and I think saying that that Buchanan was marginal, I think it places him on the spectrum in the wrong place.
Okay.
I think he was, in many respects, central. That ilk was there.
I agree.
And it fueled a lot of stuff.
I agree.
But
they were never allowed to take center stage.
They were never,
the
they
RNC.
didn't have the power as much, although Buchanan also in 93 very famously spoke.
But then he also ran as a third party candidate,
yes,
etc.
But I think that was used as an electoral quiver.
Yes.
Or an arrow in the quiver. And now I think they're finding that like almost all the arrows in the quiver are that. And so it has definitely grown and metastasized, but I don't think it grew from the margins. I think it grew out from the center.
Okay.
And so
I think there's a line from Max Boot, the Washington Post columnist, neocon, now never Trumper. I think it's his line, which is the Republican Party used to be a right-wing party with a white supremacist fringe, and now it's a white supremacist party with a right-wing fringe.
Yeah, I
I
think that's probably true.
I feel that's an accurate description of where we are. What happens next, Sam? Where do we go from here in terms of you've got this insurgent left on the Democratic side, you've got this right-wing split between kind of the traditionalists, maybe it's Rubio Vance is a good reflection of that, the old neocon establishment Republican Party, and J.D. Vance trying to be MAGA. I don't think he believes anything. Where does our politics go next?
I think, I have a lot of hope in like the youth,
Well, some of the youth, as we've discussed, some of them are groupers.
Right. But the
majority.
Generally,
yes.
the majority. And I think the party is I think we're going to move to the left in 2028. But again, there's all these challenges that our government has been decimated in a way that I don't think we've ever experienced. And what Mamdani is showing in New York is you need to provide material benefits to people in one form or another. And those material benefits can range from, faster buses to free childcare, or to just like a general spirit, like a civic spirit.
Yes.
And it's going to be a real challenge for whoever's president next to be able to deliver good government.
Not just good government, what Mamdani has done so well. And let's see what Abdul al-Sayed does, is communicate the success. Joe Biden's big failure was his inability, put Gaza to one side, of course, if you can put a genocide to one side. On the domestic policy front, he actually did do some good things. I think you and I can agree, right?
But many of them reversed themselves. They sunsetted.
Although, again, we can get into that. Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, et cetera, et cetera. He didn't reverse all of them per se.
He did not reverse them.
But even the things he didn't reverse, even the things he pulled off in a domestic achievements, whether it's inflation reduction.
We eliminated half of child poverty
in a
insane. Year.
Thank you, Joe Manchin.
And there was
Fuck you, Joe Manchin.
There was, but also, how much was this mentioned in the media?
Yes. But he didn't go to war with Manchin over it. He didn't do an FDR.
No.
And he didn't talk about his achievements. And so just providing material achievements is not enough in the social media climate we're in, where people are able to spin it away. You also have to be a communicator. Zohran Mamdani is in front of us all the time, telling us what he's done, doing it in a fun way to communicate his wins.
100%.
He's opening a community swimming pool. He doesn't put out a press release. He jumps in the pool in his suit. So everyone's like, oh, why is he jumping in his suit? Oh, it's a pool. It's a community pool. So I think, look, that is really important. And that leads me to my last question to you, which is, who do you think that 28 candidate should be who can pull off these different things we need to pull off?
I don't know who it should be. I really don't have a sense, because I think someone's going to emerge, and it really
Do you think it's, to quote Donald Rumsfeld, known unknown? You think there's going to be someone we're not thinking about that comes through?
I think it's going to be a function of who some of the people that we may know of, how in touch they are with what the future of the Democratic Party is. So for instance, like a guy like Ossoff, I think he's going to win big in Georgia. And I think he is positioned, or could position himself, to be, like you say, one of the things that Biden did very well is he was cut from a certain mold. Let's put, again, very difficult to put the genocide aside. But in terms of his domestic work in the first year, he basically had to allow Bernie to have influence on the labor side and Warren on the antitrust side. And a lot of great policies came out of that. Yeah. Again, they passed the American Rescue Act in February of 2020.
What you're saying is, and I think a lot of people said that, Biden was, one good skill he had was he understood where the party was and where he needed to be.
He was a weather vane.
And will John Ossoff do that? Maybe.
Will John Ossoff do that? And, By
the way, he's not the only person who wins in November and becomes a kind of top runner and rider. If James Tallarico wins Texas by some miracle, and the polls are showing him up against Paxton, doesn't he automatically, I know the Republican governor, a Republican governor though would fill his seat, which becomes a problem.
Yes, and
dare I say, Abdul al-Sayed wins in Michigan.
I just think 2 years, being a senator for 2 years is a tough proposition to, even Obama did four. And so,
although I should remind people, the morning after Barack Obama won in 2004, the very first question at his very first press conference was, are you running for president in 2008?
I was at that speech. People, at the DNC, people were talking about that. But he coasted in. Yeah. The thing about Obama that people could project stuff onto him in any way they wanted, because his election, I don't know if you remember that senatorial election, they had two candidates. The first guy had to drop out because of a scandal with his ex-wife. Yeah. Then it was Alan Keyes, who was a complete lunatic. And so Obama just sort of coasted in.
Also in 2004, there was no social media. There was no Republican machine. You had Fox, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
But you didn't have what you have today, which is immediate branding of people, disinformation. Like
They tried to paint him as like, you know, like
yeah, and it was much harder to do that then.
Well,
now, I mean, the
right.
explosion in Islamophobia we're going to see in the next 3 months against Abdul al-Sayed, it's going to be like nothing we've seen.
Huge. It's gonna
forget
be
Zoran Mamdani, forget Barack Obama, forget Ilhan Omar. They are going to throw the Islamophobic kitchen sink at Abdul al-Sayed. They're already doing it, saying he hates America. He's doing his full name. Ooh. And I think that's going to be a problem. Okay. Who do you want it to be?
Who do I want it? Again, like I would love to see John Ossoff come out.
But if you waved a wand, you wouldn't say AOC or Ro Khanna.
I mean, I personally feel like I would like AOC to be senator from New York.
Okay. So
And
take Chuck Schumer out.
And I think it's just sort of like, I think the left in this country needs more power.
Yeah.
Because we have seen, like El Sayed is a great example. It's tough when you have the Republicans and a slice of the Democratic Party, the one that has a lot of the power, fighting against this person.
So you're thinking strategically, have AOC in the Senate, Abdul al-Sayed in the Senate, other Troy Jackson in the Senate, have progressives in there to help a Democratic president's agenda.
Yes, to help and to push it to the left, and to realize like the center of the politics. I mean, I would be afraid of AOC losing at this point in her career, a presidential.
That's a good point. She's
race.
got a long career ahead of her, we hope. Okay, got to ask this before we go. A lot of people don't know that you're not just a host of the Majority Report and a wax lyricaler on American politics. You're also an actor. You've been in lots of things. I didn't know till we did the show that you were in Spin City.
I
used to watch Spin City back in the UK.
I did a couple.
Growing up, younger man.
I did a couple
'cause I'm
episodes
much
of
younger
Spin
than
City.
you. So when I used to watch it, who were you in that shit? Was it Michael J. Fox or Charlie Sheen time?
It was Michael J. Fox.
Okay, the
I
OG.
did a couple episodes. I was hired.
Which is a political comedy, by the way. It's
Yeah,
about a mayor in New York.
I was hired
ironically.
as a sign language interpreter for the mayor.
Okay.
And didn't have any sign language skills. And so, but I did a 2-episode run on that. I was on Sex and the City back in the day.
Bob's Burgers.
I am still a voice on Bob's Burgers.
Even today?
Yes, I play Hugo, the health inspector.
Okay.
And a couple other voices. And I just, it had been basically a decade since I did, I think the last acting, you know, like
You've just done a secret acting gig.
I just did I'm a guest on a pretty high profile show that's in its second season.
Coming out soon?
It'll come out, I think, in April of next year.
And I can't tell you, but Sam told me the role he's playing. It's not a Sam Seder role.
There was a lot of great actors I got to work with on this show that was really fun for me. But I, you know, they make you sign something. Don't tell me, because in this day and age.
But you're going to be surprised when you're watching this show and you see Sam Seder pop up and you see his job description. You'll be like, I didn't see that coming.
No, I think you probably won't see that coming.
All right. So while we wait for that secret show to come out, remind everyone where they can see you more normally.
You can watch Sam Seder on The Majority Report, co-hosted by Emma Vigeland, who I'm sure people are familiar with every day on YouTube or on Twitch. We go live at noon, and then you can find our videos after the fact, or also as a podcast.
Check out The Majority Rule. Sometimes I'm on it too. It's a great show. It's open doors for us, as I said. Make sure you support independent media. Go like, subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Head over to Zateo.com to become a paid subscriber so you can get episodes of We're Not Kidding as soon as they drop. As I say, support independent journalism across the board. We need it now more than ever before. I am Mehdi Hassan.
And I'm Sam Seder.
And we were not kidding.
No.
Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to Zateo.com. Your support matters.